In the first session, Don Everts helped us get a better understanding of what the Bible has to say about households. And it turns out it's a much broader concept than we tend to think of today. In fact, a lot of us may have found that our household is much bigger than we tend to think of it today, and some of us may be experiencing a change in what we ourselves look at as our own household. Today I'm joined by Ashley Bayless, and we're going to continue to look at households. Ashley, give us an idea of what we're going to be examining today.
Yeah, so in the research with Barna, they looked at Christian churches across America and what those churches were made of in terms of households. And 5 different types came forward. We're going to look at those 5 different types today. We're also going to see what characteristics came forth in light of them being spiritually vibrant.
That's pretty exciting for me because it means that whatever type of household you're in, whether it be a couple household or someone like me who's in a multi-generational household, there is stuff in this research that applies to you. So with that, let's go ahead and jump on in and take a look at the research.
In the past 50 years, our image of the nuclear family, mom, dad, 2.5 kids, and a dog, as average, it's no longer accurate. The fact is, nuclear households make up only a quarter of households found in most churches in America today. In this first clip, Brooke Hempel, Barna's Senior Vice President of Research, provides examples of the 5 different households included in the study, households that represent the diversity of Christian household experiences.
So we designed a survey that would be fielded amongst 2,400 practicing Christians. It's a very large sample. Practicing Christians would be those who attend church monthly or more often and who say their faith is very important in their lives. So that's probably all of you who are watching right now. The study specifically went towards those practicing Christians who live in multi-person households. So because we were looking at the dynamics of the way we shape each other, we didn't include those who live alone. And that's a significant portion of the American households, although it's much less amongst practicing Christians. There's more communal living in practicing Christians. But we focus on those with multi-person households. We included 2,400 practicing Christians, of which 500 were teens. So that gave us enough of a large sample to be able to look at some very specific types of households, kind of like the ones I mentioned. So here's a few examples. Here's some of your favorite TV audiences, right? A big multi-generational household here. You've got grandparents, you've got kids, you've got even some extended family members. There's a lot of these households that have 3 generations, or maybe they have a gap in the middle. They might have a grandparent and a child. But that's who fell into our category of multi-generational households. Then we had single parents. This would be one unmarried parent living with 1 or more children in their household. Those may even be adult children in some cases, but there was definitely only 1 parent present. There was some overlap in these cases with multi-generational households because you would have support from other family members. Then we have your traditional nuclear family. Again, often there's kind of other people in their community that become a part of that household, but this is 2 married parents who have children who are under 18. There's also a group of what we call grown-up nuclear family. That is those who are a married couple who also have 1 or more adult children living in their home. Then you have the roommate situation. So these are unmarried adults who live together as roommates or maybe have a boarder in their house. And finally, couples. Our couples were a mix of some young marrieds as well as some empty nesters. A little more of the empty nesters were in this sample, but they didn't have any children living in their home with them. We did find the couples to be a little more isolated than some of the other household types. So you can see there's a real collection of different household types that make up the church. This is the church. These are practicing Christians. Only 25% are that traditional nuclear family household. All the others make up the balance, and there's quite a diversity there. So one of the things that struck us was that, gosh, the church is really diverse and really varied, and there's so much richness in the way that we grow our faith.
Let's stop here for a moment and discuss the current household dynamics and the makeup of your household. It's worth noting that there's one significant household type not represented in this study: single adults living alone. A full 25% of the country's population fits into this category. As Brooke pointed out in the video, this omission isn't intended to dismiss this segment's valuable participation and influence in the communities of faith of our country. Rather, we wanted to better understand how Christians living under the same roof practice their faith together. However, the more we examine these other 5 household types with people living together, the more places we found where single adults living alone have a major impact on Christian households in America. This segment was perhaps best expressed by Roxanne Stone, Barna's editor-in-chief. In this clip, Roxanne shares the impact of working on this study has had for her personally as a single adult living alone.
I didn't know if this study would have anything for me, because I'm single and I live alone, and so I was like, well, I don't have a household. What will this study show me? But it did. It showed me just the way that I can be part of an extended household, and this, the importance of not becoming isolated. And so, I recently moved to live a block and a half away from 2 of my best friends, and they have 2 kids, and one of their daughter is my goddaughter, and I've just become very intentional about having family dinner with them once or twice a week, going to church with them, playing a really active role in their kids' lives, and helping to raise them in a way. So that was a big part of the learnings for me in the study.
You've already mapped out your household, looking at the individuals who are part of your core, but also your extended household. Take a few minutes now and talk about the impact of single adults on your household. The goal of this study was to learn from households that appeared to be exceptionally engaged in communal and consistent faith expression in the home, what Barna described as a spiritually vibrant household. In a few minutes, we'll share what common characteristics came forward among those spiritually vibrant households. But before we do that, I want you to consider the daily life and routines of your home. Let's say a friend from out of town comes to stay at your house for a week. It's a good friend you haven't seen in a while, and she explicitly says, "Don't do anything special on my account. I just want to come and hang out with your family." What would that week look like? Would her meals be alone, everyone fending for themselves, or would she join everyone around the table? Might be a mixture of both. And what's conversation look like at mealtime? What about downtime? Would she find herself sitting on the couch with everyone doing their own thing? Someone reading a book, scrolling on a phone, doing homework, a last-minute work project? Or would there be some sort of communal activity where everyone's watching a movie or playing a board game together, or even everyone helping with chores around the house? What about the weekend? Would she follow you from place to place attending everyone's various events? Or would it be a low-key day at home? Would she go with your crew on a hiking adventure or exploring the city? And what about spiritual things? Would she jump in for devotions or prayer time? Would you invite or participate in a small group that meets at your house or come with you to church on Sunday? Or are some of those spiritual disciplines absent from your home? Take a moment now to jot down some of the routines and rituals, spiritual or not, that are important to your household. As Barna interviewed individuals about their households, they found these 3 distinct characteristics within the households that correlated to spiritual vibrancy. And what are these vibrant characteristics? Researchers found that vibrant households apply spiritual disciplines, like praying and reading the Bible together on a regular basis. They extend hospitality by welcoming non-family members into their home on a regular basis. And they engage in spiritual conversations about God and faith with household members and guests. Let's meet a few spiritually vibrant households and hear how these 3 characteristics are active in their homes.
As a family, we go around the table asking, is there prayer needs? And we pray before we eat dinner.
So in our house for devotions, we split it up so that everyone can get involved.
We use devotions, like I said, that have been recommended by our church, and we read the scripture and discuss that.
So in our household, we usually do devotions around the dinner table.
In the roommate setting, it's more of individualized, but I think with a roommate, it's more of you, and you're relying on yourself.
So I have like 2 friends, but I wouldn't call them my friends. I would call them my sisters.
So in our household, we do have a lot of people who consider themselves part of the family, and we consider them the same.
As you can see with our house, we're a gathering place.
That's just who we are. I mean, the house is always open.
There's nothing really formal about it. It's as simple as food and fellowship and maybe some wine.
When situations arise, when different things happen in our day-to-day lives, we tend to say, well, you know, how do we express our Christian faith in this situation?
Faith is an important part of each of our lives, so it's a natural thing to bring up a conversation.
Any conversation, any topic can be a teachable moment.
So it's, again, a very fluid situation. It's not a structure, okay, at 8 o'clock, we're going to sit down, we're going to do this, but it looks different almost every day, but it always happens. God finds a way to bring that in our house every day.
Where these 3 characteristics are present and active, Christian households are more spiritually vibrant. And the good news about these 3 vibrancy characteristics is this: they aren't characteristics you're born with. Rather, these are practices that any Christian household can choose to work on and develop. We've had you look at the makeup of your household, both core and extended, and also consider what daily routines and rituals are important to you. Now it's time to reflect on your household's current level of vibrancy. To do this, we've designed an inventory to help. You're going to read 20 statements that correspond to the different vibrancy variables within a household. For each statement, reflect on how often the core members of your household, those of you who live under the same roof, participate in that activity together, unless it's noted otherwise as an individual practice. First, mark how often some of your core household members participate in that activity together: daily, weekly, monthly, rarely, or never. Next, mark how often all of your household members participate in that activity: daily, weekly, monthly, rarely, or never. Remember, the purpose of this inventory is not to grade your household, but to honestly reflect on your household's vibrant practices and to consider how God might be calling you to increase your spiritual vibrancy. Remember, household schedules often shift and change over time, but for this inventory, consider the practices during your current season of life. Let's take a few minutes now to evaluate your household by using the vibrancy inventory.